Hey, thank you so much. My name is Fred Diamond. I'm the co-founder and president of the Institute for Excellence in Sales and the producer of the 4 webcasts that the IES is publishing right now. I'm also the host of our Wednesday webcast featuring 2 great sales game changers guests. Tomorrow, Wednesday, we have Ivy Savoy Smith from Entercom. They're the company that does a lot of the local radio stations around the country, and also Christine Barger, who's a VP of Sales with Salesforce. On Thursday, it's our Optimal Sales Mindset webcast with David Morelli, and Friday at 11 o'clock, David Noor. I'm so excited. I want to thank our sponsors of the Institute for Excellence in Sales, our platinum sponsors, Cvent, Asher Strategies, DLT, Immix Group, Red Hat, and SAP NS2. I'm very excited. Every Tuesday at noon Eastern Time, Ginna Stracuzzi, who runs our Women in Sales program, hosts the Women in Sales webcast. She has a great show today with Alvina Peat. So Ginna, I'm excited for today's show. I'm really excited what Alvina is going to be talking about. So let's turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Fred. As always, welcome everyone. It is Tuesday and June is just flying by. It's just incredible. So I want to welcome everyone, and we've got a great show today. We're going to have a wonderful discussion with Alvina Peat, and I'm going to let her introduce herself here in just a moment. So we're going to be talking about empowerment techniques and ways to really have some self-compassion and to dare greatly, if I can steal some terms from a lovely lady that we all know and love. But before we get started with that, I want to talk to you a little bit about what's coming up. As Fred said, he's got the Sales Game Changers tomorrow, and then the Optimal Mindset, and then his Creativity in Sales. So make sure that you're in on all of those. So before we get started with our webcast, I would like to throw up a little poll just to take the temperature of the crowd, see what's happening in your world. The poll is now open, and we're going to be talking a little bit in that poll about what's happening for you in this time period right now. So once we get that up, and I always seem to be having trouble seeing the polls these days. I'm not sure why, but I know it's open. So if you would go ahead and take a poll on that, or give us your responses, then I'll read back the results in just a few seconds. And before we get started, also, we've got a lot of great shows coming up in the next week or so, or 2 weeks, I should say. Next week, we're going to be talking about negotiating. And negotiating is an awkward thing for a lot of people anyway, but coming out of a pandemic, it could be even harder. So this is going to be a great show. You don't want to miss it. Susan Bork is my guest. Do we have the poll results now? I think we do.
Yes, they're up, Ginna.
Are they? And I can't see them. Can you share them with us? I mean, can you?
Question is where are you right now as a sales professional? 50% say we've survived, now rebounding. 17% say the past months were their best ever, and 33% say status quo pretty much throughout.
Good. Well, it's nice to know that some people it had their best months ever. I mean, that's good to know. And status quo, even though a lot of times we talk about it being not a great thing, sometimes it's okay. I mean, if you're not losing ground, it's a good thing. So now we're going to move on to our conversation with the wonderful Alvina Peat. Alvina, I am so happy to have you on as a guest. I know you're founder and CEO of Peat, or Williams Peat Associates, and the Her Empowerment Retreat, which I just love. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and welcome.
Thank you, Ginna. So yes, I am the founder and creator of Williams Peat Associates. I started in 2002 as an independent training and development specialist, primarily partnering with organizations to deliver communication skills workshops and coaching. And as time progressed, I started working more and more with women. either through networking events or the Chamber of Commerce, or just a variety of opportunities to present or to work one-on-one with women. And in 2018, I decided to focus fully on developing what I called her empowerment retreat. I was a part of a mastermind group, and there were 3 of us, and we were going around about trying to think of a name for this event that I wanted to create. And one of the members just simply said, well, why are we making it so difficult? Just call it Her. And so that's how the name came to be. And Her Empowerment Retreat has now grown into Her Empowerment Retreat and Resources, but still the acronym Her. And the reason I added the resources was because I wanted to be more than just a one or an annual event a year. I wanted to be more of a resource to women, to either help them connect with others, or to, provide them information, work one-on-one, and also a series of workshops, programs, postings, and so forth.
Wonderful, wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about what you want to talk about today. How are you going to help our guests feel empowered when they walk away?
So, that's an interesting question. How will I help them feel more empowered? I believe empowerment is from within. So I can't do anything to help you be more empowered, but I hope that we can have a good conversation that will help women think about their approaches to things, how they are handling these very peculiar times, and that's saying it lightly. But I hope that our conversation will help them examine their thoughts, their actions, and they feel more empowered.
Okay, perfect. So I want to let everybody know too that we're going to be taking questions throughout the morning, or our 45 minutes here. We'll usually stop around 45 minutes before the hour. And so if you have questions, if anyone has questions or comments, please share them with us. We're happy to hear them. And Alvina, why don't you start with telling us about the 4 pillars of empowerment?
Great. I love talking about the 4 pillars, so that's perfect place to start. So as I began to design and develop the retreat, the Her Empowerment Retreat, I built it on these 4 what I call pillars of empowerment. And they are: I do, I dare, I deserve, and I desire. And the reason I call them the pillars of empowerment is because I feel like when we examine those areas of our lives, we can become more empowered. We can become even more inspired. And so as I was doing research, what I would discover is that most of the women that I worked with were really stuck in 2 areas. What they were doing was stuck up against what they were desiring to do. And that is where they were not feeling empowered. They felt like, I'm doing all of this, I have so much on my plate, yet it's not really what I want to be doing. Or it's some of what I want to be doing, but I really have this dream or aspiration, but this stuff is getting in the way. But when I started to peel back the layers, it was a part of that was that some things were getting in the way. But it was also 2 areas that would come back constantly. And that was the fear of stepping out of the comfort zone, and also the feeling that they didn't deserve to make this change or to try starting a business, that they had other priorities, which was linked to what I'm doing, what was on my plate. And so as I continue to research, and still to this day, working and talking with women and researching, it always comes back to, this is what I'm doing, this is what I'm desiring to do, but these 2 things get in the way. And so the fear became I dare, and the I deserve just came out of the fact that I feel that all women deserve to live the life that they desire.
I'm just checking. Okay, some people were having trouble hearing. I'm hoping Laura, are you able to hear us now? I hope so. Well, that makes perfect sense, Alvina, because I think one of the things that trip women up a lot, and we hear this in the Women in Sales Leadership Forum, we hear them talking about they almost don't feel like they deserve to desire.
Yeah,
It doesn't feel right to want because
right.
there are so many competing interests in a woman's life. Now, and this is true for men too, but
Hmm.
men kind of think about things differently. They don't
Hmm.
necessarily use the word desire. That's more of an emotion that's women are off feel more comfortable speaking about. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And so I think what you're saying makes perfect sense, that your research vetted this out. It makes sense to me.
Yeah. And, and really examining my own purpose, and thinking, for instance, in 2002, when I decided to go off on my own after I always say growing up in corporate America. So you have all the, um, what am I going to say? All the benefits of
Mhm.
working for someone else. All the benefits literally and figuratively. You have all of these benefits, and then to step out of that and to go off on your own, and you think, okay, do I, deserve to do this? I have bills and responsibilities and, commitments, and yet this is what's calling me. So, I mean, we're questioning that all the time. I think I have a friend who we were having a general conversation, and I was going on and on about something, and at the end of the conversation, she just simply said to me, "Well, you deserve to be happy too." And I remember that feeling. It was like a kick in the gut because it was like, "Oh yeah, I do, don't I?" But I had never
Mhm.
stopped to think about that, right? So it was all about my responsibilities. Now, obviously, in the adult world, as adults, we do have responsibilities, we do have priorities, and sometimes we have to think about, okay, if I do this, what will it cost, or what will I have to sacrifice over here? So I'm not naive to think that we can just throw caution to the wind and just live and do and have everything we want at the same time, right? You have to figure that out. Um, but I do believe that we, most of the time, we get stuck in the areas of feeling like stepping out, taking that dare, and feeling like we deserve it, or knowing that we deserve it.
That makes sense too. So why don't we unpack a little bit more of each of the pillars
Okay.
and how you would recommend applying them to your career, your professional environment. They're seem to me very tied, the personal and the professional.
Yes.
And I think, you know, I'm just never been very good at putting things in compartments in my mind. They bleed all over each other, you know. So that made sense to me the way you frame it in in recognizing both sides of that. So if you could share that some more with us, that would be great.
Sure. So let's start with I do, for instance. And by the way, Gina, let me know if I need to speak up more. Sometimes I trail off here.
Okay.
So you're starting with I do. Now, obviously, you're right. Things just flow into one another, right? So there is our lives are not little individual compartments, but it's how my brain works. So best until I let it blend. So we'll start with I do. You know, one of the activities I do in person when we have the retreat is we do this activity called What's on My Plate, and that's under the I do pillar. And I came to that activity because typically what are on their plates are things like family time, personal or professional development, climbing the ladder, um, having time for themselves, connecting with spirit. all of these things are things that we are juggling. And those are what I call our intentions, what we want to do, right? But then I talk about this little gremlin or this green ball that I use, and I say, this is the thing that calls our attention away from our intentions. And this green ball in person, it just kind of lights up at the women. And I have them examine this plate and look at what is it that they really want on their plate. If they could eliminate everything else and just have one or two things that they really wanted, whether it's me time or family time or, career advancement, if they could just hone in on one or two things, what would it be? And then we look at that and we examine that. Now in person, they're running around like crazy trying to collect all of these things that they desire. But when we come back together and we talk about, okay, what did that activity feel like when you were running and trying to get your me time or trying to grab your ladder or try and get rid of the green ball, the distractor? What does that feel like? And a lot of women will share that is what their lives are like. Like it's this plate and they know what they want and they want it on the plate, but they just can't seem to grab hold of it or keep it, because what's behind all of it is the noise around, okay, so you want these things and this is what you're desiring, but there's some changes that you may have to make that you're not ready to make. And that's where the dare comes in. And so we spend quite a bit of time looking at what's on my plate. The other thing around what's on my plate and under the I do pillar is a lot of times there's so much on our plate, and I'll say to women, okay, so you have all of this going on, but I hear or sense that there's some emptiness or some frustration. And then we'll explore that, right? Like, okay, so yeah, I'm busy. I am so busy. But at the same time, I'm either frustrated or overwhelmed or empty. So think about what we're experiencing right now. And you and I talked about this a little bit, Ginna, where we're doing so much that we had never anticipated doing. Many of us are now teachers, on top of taking care of our professional selves and all the other things that we do. So that's all on our plate. And some women that I talk to they feel really overwhelmed. They don't feel charged and excited about having all of this on their plate. They're overwhelmed. So then we have to peel back and say, okay, so what do I really need on this plate? What is it that I'm doing that I really, really need to be doing right now? What do I really need to hone in on? Because it's not life as usual.
Right.
And so I think whenever we talk about that first pillar of empowerment, it's really examining what you're doing and is it really what I need to be doing right now? Let alone what I desire to do, but is it what I need to be doing right now? And just understanding that to be your most empowered self might mean that I have to release some of it because I cannot do it all. It may be my intention to do it all, but I cannot.
Do you find too that resentment bubbles up in there along with the frustration?
Oh no. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. Think about it. I think about this. Many of us are, and I don't want to say stuck in because you're with your families and you have a home and but sometimes you feel stuck inside, right? You're stuck. And so I've talked to people who said to me, mostly women who say, if I have to cook one more meal on the screen. Now, and that includes me, right? But then when I step back and I think about the privilege it is to be able to cook a meal and to bring some happiness to my parents, my child, my husband, if I could just click that switch and align myself with those thoughts, right? It's better. But most of the time I've already gone full speed ahead down the lane of if I have to cook one more meal, and I become very resentful. And I talk to women and they do the same thing. Like, it's like, okay, when I pull back, I understand, this is a privilege. This is a gift to be able to even have someone to share a meal with, because many women are isolated right now. They don't
Right.
live
Right.
alone. So, the resentment does play a part in that. And also, many of us want to focus on our professional lives. We enjoy it. We really enjoy what we do professionally. I would imagine that in sales, well, any profession, but we're talking about sales, in order for you to be really successful, you have to have some level of enjoyment, right, out of what you're doing. So now we're distracted. We're not able to do the thing that that brings us a great amount of joy, in addition to, the other priorities in our lives. Something that we really enjoy is taken away right now, or you have to figure out how to do it differently. So I would imagine there's going to be some resentment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, especially in this particular moment in time, there is no barrier between the professional and the personal. It's just all in one space together. And so it makes it hard sometimes to see the joy in something that, you might come through the door on a normal day and you just can't wait to see your kids, or, make a nice dinner or whatever. And now it's because it's the same faces and no breaks, that it's easy to fall into that. Definitely. So after I do is
I dare, but I'm going to jump all the way to the opposite end, and that is I desire, because I like to talk about them in this way. This is what I'm doing. This is what I desire to do. So as we talk about resentments and moving into, or we mentioned resentment and move into I desire, I think that some of the resentments or frustrations or just overwhelming feelings can also come from the fact that what I'm desiring may not be aligned to what is needed right now. And that's really important to think about, right? So if I desire to be back out doing my workshops with my corporate clients, or working one-on-one with some of my favorite women, and just and I can't do that, or I cannot do it in the way that I typically do it, it hurts, right? It's frustrating. It's just like, I don't know, it's just anger in some cases. And sometimes sadness, you're missing. So it's all the emotions. And so really stepping back and just looking at what am I desiring, right? What is it that I want to achieve or do that I'm not able to do right now, or have right now, but not. I think what this time is teaching me, it hasn't taught me yet completely, but it's teaching me that it's not over, right? So the desire, you'll have an opportunity to teach again. It might be different. It might be over Zoom or GoToMeeting, or, one-on-ones, but just shifting a little bit to think about, okay, this is still what I desire to do professionally or personally, but how can I do it differently? How can I repackage it? And that's not always professional. It can also be personally. Maybe you loved to get out in the afternoon and do, a really great jog or something that really gets you going. And now with all of I hear people say, I can't jog with the face mask. It's like, so how do I still do what I desire to do? In a different way.
Right.
Yeah.
Adjustments.
Yeah. And then, which then brings us back to the dare. So stepping out of your comfort zone, looking at things in a new way, being afraid but still doing it. All the things we hear constantly. Easy to say, not always easy to do. So I like to use the analogy, don't try to swallow the ocean.
I like that.
Because typically, and if you're like me, you have an idea and you jump straight in. You want that thing to happen. But sometimes it's just like steps, little steps that we have to take, or
Right.
some big steps that we have to take, but you're not going to do it all at the same time. You try it and you test it and you move forward. I hear people say a lot of times, fail forward, or you learn from your failures. Well, I don't use the word fail. I don't believe that I've ever failed at anything. I just experiment. I have a very good friend who would say to me, well, experiment with it. Or that's a great experiment. And I'm talking major things like changing
Mm-hmm.
career, or trying a new job, or taking on a new client. And I prefer to call them experiments, not just because I think it's catchy, or it's how I really feel about it. If you're stepping out of your comfort zone and you're experimenting and you didn't get the results you want, you have some choices, right? You
Right.
experiment a little more or try a new way, but chances are you've learned quite a bit from that experiment. Even if you're not consciously aware of what you've learned, you've learned. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
like scientists, right? I'm not a scientist, but I would imagine that scientists are experimenting and sometimes they're getting the results they are really hoping to get, and sometimes they're not. But that's why it's called an experiment. We're testing. And that's how I feel about the pillar I dare. It's not just about taking the leap and stepping out of your comfort zone. It really is being willing to experiment, not having the answers, not necessarily knowing the result, having an aim, having a target, having a goal, having a desire,
Mm-hmm.
and resting in and aligning with the fact that as you dare, you're going to be experimenting and you're just going to keep on moving. And that's how I think of that pillar. And then when we move into I deserve, which is probably even more
The
difficult.
thorniest. That's the thorniest.
Uh, that is, yeah, you're right. That's the thorniest. Um, but it's also where the roses lie.
Nice.
Think about it. Everybody, there are people who may not like roses. I love roses, but we have those thorns. And so in order for us to get through to what we desire, we have to work with that area of, do I deserve this? Yes, I'm going to answer it for you. Yes, whatever it is you desire, you deserve it. Now, you have to be true to yourself and understanding their risk, prices, things we have to pay, price we have to pay. But at the same time, if you really feel you deserve it, that promotion, for instance, and I heard you say you all were going to talk about negotiating.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to definitely join in on that. But a lot of times when we're negotiating, people can really see whether we think we deserve what it is that
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
asking for, right? So I talk about asking for what you deserve, or communicating what you deserve, and really believing you deserve it. Uh, and maybe you don't really feel it in the beginning, right? You're stepping lightly, because you might not feel you deserve it. Do it anyway. Go for it anyway. Practice. Pretend you deserve it. How would you talk about this? How would you request this? How would you, state this if you really thought you deserved it?
That's a really powerful thought, because I think believing that you deserve something, if it's not something that comes easily to you, it's like any other skill or habit that you want to form. You have to do it again and again and again in order for it to stick.
Mhm.
So coming up with small thinking exercises that you could do for 30 days. I think that's what they say. You have to do something for 30 days for it to stick.
Yes.
Almost maybe a mantra. You know, I do deserve, I do deserve.
um, I'm a big fan of the late Louise Hay, and it was through her work that I first started to even understand this huge barrier that deserve was for a lot of people, men and women, but primarily women were really stuck there. My words, not Louise Hay. She worked with both men and women, but just knowing that you deserve me time, free time, the job that you wanted, the meal that you want. I often talk, and I think about this when I was a new mom. My sister and I had gone out to dinner, and she said to me, what are you getting? I said, I don't care, as long as it's hot and I don't have to get up and fix anybody anything. And she laughed. She wasn't a mom yet. And so once she became a mom, she laughed. She understood it. But understanding that you deserve a good meal too, right? You're so busy focusing on your child, rightfully so. And at the same time, we get lost in it. I think, and I try not to speak in generalizations, right, or general terms, because it's not every woman. Of course, and everyone listening out there, I hope that you can sense that I don't feel that every woman feels this way. But when we talk about it in broad terms, as women and the women that I work with, we put ourselves on the back burner and make sure that everyone else has what we feel they deserve. And then when you can step back, as I said about my friend who said, but you deserve to be happy too, or you deserve to have a party too, or you deserve a new blouse. It's really interesting to stop and think about, oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I deserve 8 hours of sleep too, or I deserve around the block, because we're going to make sure our children get 8 hours. We're going to make sure, there's food in the fridge. We're going to make sure anything that's in our power, we're going to make sure that those around us that we love, that we feel they deserve it, we're going to make sure they have to stop and say, okay, so Alvina, what do I deserve today? How many times do I ask myself that? So even affirming that I deserve to be happy. Now, don't just have an affirmation. Act. So
good.
Act. One of my favorite Bible verses is faith without good works is dead. So I feel like, affirmations without work is dead. You can affirm all you want, but you have to act.
Can you give us some small examples of ways that people can act to confirm their affirmation?
Okay, so if you feel that you deserve 8 hours of rest, if you feel I would like to be able, even if it's I'm going to go to bed, go up in my room, and you decide, listen, family, it's summer, school's out, whatever it is, you guys may be on your own tonight. I'm just going to go upstairs, sit in a chair, and just relax earlier tonight than normal. Do it. Go up 5 minutes earlier, 15 minutes early. Now, for those of you who think, okay, that's nice, tell me about what am I going to do when I have, 1, 2, or 5 little ones screaming and running around. I didn't say it was easy, but how do you break away or step back and say, okay, what would it take in order for me to get myself in bed a few minutes earlier? What would it take? What would I have to do? Maybe that won't ever work for you. Maybe your downtime is when everybody else is kind of busy and you just sit in the chair for 5 minutes and tell yourself, for these 5, 10, 15 minutes, I am not going to do anything but relax. I'm going to unplug the phone and just watch my favorite show, listen to my favorite whatever for 5 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
The idea is, again, we're experimenting. We're doing things that maybe we thought was totally off the table. Now it's, maybe I can do it in little increments.
Okay. Okay, so let's go on to, we did the I do, I deserve, I dare. What have we missed here? What's the
So
fourth?
we did all 4 of them. So we started with I do, we moved to I desire, and then we
Okay.
talked about dare and deserve. But I want to go to I desire, a little back to the I desire, because recently I've been thinking about this. I don't want women that work with me to stay stuck in what they desire. I want to get to the point of you having it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been toying with that, that I don't want us to be on this treadmill of always desiring. I want you to have what you desire, but only you or me, right? Individually, only we can facilitate that, have that happen. There are no outside factors that can make us have what we want. We have to grab it. We have to claim it. We have to. I think it was a sales training like aim it and claim it, or something like that back in the 80s. So, okay, you desire something, but now what are you going to do to have it? Right? What's that next step? And that takes us back into that I dare again. So it's when you were saying earlier, Ginna, it's not just boxes. We don't live in compartments. They're all like, it's all mixed in there together, and you have to really ask yourself, is my thinking, are my actions aligned to me having this thing, or is it aligned to me just always desiring it, always wanting it, but never really taking that next step to having it?
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yeah. So you would recommend then perhaps you have your I do plate, and you have to prioritize. I mean, which of these things do you need to be doing, and which ones can you maybe not give as much attention or energy? So are you recommending then, for the things that you feel you deserve, that you maybe not rate them, but give a certain amount of importance to which ones, so that you're not trying to feel like I deserve this, 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 and this? Because I would think that could get overwhelming too, because if I felt like I deserved so much more, then I would be starting to get eaten alive with, wait a minute, I deserve that too. Instead of just, I could see how you could get lost in those thoughts.
Yeah.
So would you recommend prioritizing that as well?
That's interesting. So I'm not so certain that it's about priorities, but it's about an awareness. So you're right. We could go forever desiring and wanting and deserving, but typically it's really not, at least in my experience, it's not like this big overwhelming, like I want it all. I want everything and I want it now. It sometimes it's just simply, I want a raise. I desire a raise, or I desire a promotion. And yeah, there's always going to be other things that we want and other things that we desire, but usually there's something in the forefront that's pressing. And say, for instance, if it's the promotion, you probably have your reasons for why you want the promotion. Maybe it will put you in a better position to provide for your family. Maybe it will put you in a better position to learn more things that you hadn't learned, or make connections, whatever. You have those so within that thing that you're desiring, there are many layers as to why you want it. So it's probably not, oh, I'm going to get overwhelmed because yes, I want this and I want this and I want this. Maybe that one thing that you're desiring is the path to many other things that will start to come your way, or that you will wake up to, like, oh yeah, it would be nice to have that. But I think those deep desires, those things that we're struggling with, those areas that we feel stuck
Mhm.
in, I don't know, but I don't personally think that they're all converging on us at one time.
Okay, okay, that's good thinking. That's good thinking. So in the last few minutes that we have, can you leave us with one or two thoughts or one or two activities that people can implement right now to get them on the track for evaluating their I do's and aligning them with their desires?
The first thing I will say, is to really pay attention to your thoughts about the thing that you want, the lens through what you see. So when we do I deserve in person, I give out a pair of glasses, and I have women write on the lenses some common thoughts that they have, some constant thoughts that they have about what it is that they are going after, or what they think they deserve. But I have them write it on the lens, and then I have them put the glasses on, and I ask them to look through as a symbol of what you're thinking about, what you're constantly saying, what you're believing, is the lens through what you're looking through.
Oh,
And so if you're thinking good things never happen for me, oh, I'm so overwhelmed, oh, this will never work out, and you find that those are your constant thoughts, that's the lens through which you see everything. So whatever you're desiring, if you see it through that lens, that good things don't happen for you, then what are the chances of that thing appearing or happening? And even when it does happen, you may not even recognize it, because your lens is so clouded over with the thoughts that aren't serving you well. So being really careful, be really intentional about what you're thinking, what
mhm.
you're communicating to yourself. And then the second point is just be kind to yourself.
I like
Even
that.
if you find that you are having negative thoughts, we all have them. Our lenses aren't always squeaky clean and we don't always have rose colored lenses on, right? Sometimes life is really hard. Sometimes experiences are very difficult, and they are what they are. Or your experiment didn't work out the way you wanted to. Just be kind to yourself, and tomorrow's I have another friend who always says tomorrow's another day.
That's right. My mom used to say that. And I think that message is really powerful right now because there's so much emphasis on empathy, being empathetic to your clients, your sales prospects, your coworkers, your partners and spouses and kids, and turning that empathy inwards and applying it to yourself
Mhm.
is is important because I think we're kind of empathy depleted right now, a lot of us, because it's just been an extraordinary time, and acknowledging that is important. So I that is a really powerful message, both figuratively and physically, the way you have people look through those glasses. I really like that. I don't think she's necessarily recommending that you go and mark up your glasses if you wear them like me, but it is a good way of getting a real visual on something like that, because you don't realize sometimes how much you roll through your head and do a lot of self-talk.
Mhm.
It's really powerful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, Alvina, we are out of time. It has been a pleasure talking with you, and I hope everyone has got a lot out of that. I want to go over to this slide, which isn't moving for me, of course. So Alvina is telling us about her. She's got a workshop coming up. It's on self-compassion, which is just as it happened, what we were talking about. And it's this upcoming Saturday from 11:30 to 1:30. If you go to WilliamsPeatAssociate.com, but it's abbreviated, and look for the Her Virtual, you can find out more about that. I will make these slides available, and we will also have a recording of this, so you can get that information again. And I look forward to getting to know you better, Alvina, and I hope you'll come on a Women in Sales show again.
I will. Thank you for having me, and
You're
thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you. See everybody next week. Take care. Bye-bye.